Atomic batteries to power.
Now, Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a dog for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
You just stay in bed, and I'll fix breakfast and serve you in bed. Let's see now. Where are the pots? Alice?
I'll get one for you, Ralph.
All right. Alice, where's the oatmeal? Oh, you're a good one. Alice, where's the coffee?
Ralph, will you please let me get the breakfast? I'm getting tired walking back and forth here.
Look, I'm going to cook the breakfast. Just tell me where the coffee is. I'll have it on in a jiffy.
Aha. Welcome to Everything Old is New Again. Douglas Viviani here with the brunch man himself, David Cohen.
Yes, good to be here. Good to hear the honeymooners.
How about that?
It's so rare we hear that on this show.
That in Star Trek and Abbott Costello. We have this is literally the fourth show that we are doing that is focusing on the changing taste buds of America. And how have you been enjoying it? Has it been something that's worthwhile? Brunchman?
That's a loaded question, you know? I've enjoyed it. Is it worthwhile? Sure.
It's more worthwhile than anything else on the radio. We could say that. Let's go that way with it.
I agree with that.
All right. So that's with that qualification. We are going to continue. And the first section here, I want to look at how the world of comedy has taken to cooking and just, the American palate and how it's changed. He's cooking brunch and he's cooking, Ralph Cramden there is cooking oatmeal. And, of course, now these days it would be, I don't know, a frittata, and there would be strawberries on the side, and it would be some accoutrement would be like some almond milk in your coffee. And right, I mean, the taste buds have changed quite a bit. Am I wrong? From what do you think the 1953 would be when?
Well, oatmeal was still popular. I think Ralph was a bit ahead of his time there. That hasn't changed.
All right, but he didn't put, and I'm not putting it down. I think it's great the development of all of these taste buds. But he didn't put apple and cinnamon and really
True.
Spice it up.
Well, they also didn't have a lot of money, so they might not have been able to afford the accoutrement.
Fair enough. I just don't think they had it. I think that we're seeing the development of the taste buds of America, and I think it's of course for the better, of course. And I'm not making fun of the past. It's just
no. It doesn't sound like you are at all.
No. Speaking of making fun, Julia Child was a huge influence in the 60s and 70s. Let's listen to her teach you, David Cohen, how to cut an onion. First of all, how would you cut an onion? This is what I want to hear.
How would I cut an onion?
Yes, I want to hear how you do it.
I know how to cut an onion. I know the way to do it.
Let's hear you do it. Let's hear you and versus Julia.
You slice it, but you don't slice all the way down.
First of all, it's a big round thing. Do you slice it in half or do you keep it as one?
I'm trying. Yeah, so you slice it in half.
Okay, then what?
And then you turn each half over so it's flat, and then you cut from the where the stem was, I guess, down into strips, like perpendicular strips, but not all the way down to the table. Don't cut all the way down. And then you turn it on its side, and then you slice it all the way through. And then so in other words, you're chopping it up into little bits, but it's still connected to the stem. That's the key part.
Interesting. I think it might be.
It works.
I think you might be right there. But you also got to remember, use your fingers sort of where the fingers are exposed. It's only your fingernails.
Your knuckles are stopping the knife.
Don't sound so like you know it all. Don't sound like
you asked me.
Let's see. Only reason why I say that because I wanted you to look bad, and you're not going to look bad now compared to Julia Child.
For some reason, I know I don't look good, but I know how to cut an onion.
I thought I would get something out of this, but anyway, let's put it this way. I don't know.
Do it again, and I'll play dumb.
Let's put it this way. I don't know how to cut an onion properly. Julia Child, please tell me. How do I cut an onion in 25 seconds?
You hold the onion with your thumb that way.
Yes.
And your fingers this way.
Mm-hmm.
Your fingernails are pointed away because you don't want to cut your hands off or your fingers off. And your knife sort of knocks against your knuckles as you move your finger down like that. See? Now you're coming straight down like that. And then after you've done a little practice on it, it just goes like that. If you're going to...
There you go. So
it really comes through over radio.
It doesn't really come alive.
Yeah, you can really visualize what she's doing. I have no idea what she's doing.
Do you know what you can visualize now, though? If you're as old a person or as experienced as we are, the French chef on Saturday Night Live.
Now you place the chicken on its stomach and cut along the backbone to the Pope's nose like so. Now I've done it. I've cut the dickens out of my finger. Well, I'm glad in a way this happened. You know, accidents do occur from time to time in the kitchen. We've never really discussed what to do.
Bleeding all over the place, right?
The best way is with direct pressure on the apron like so. Now, you want to raise your hand over your head so the blood has to be pumped all the way up. Oh, the apron doesn't seem to be working, so I'd recommend natural coagulants such as chicken liver.
Now that's certainly dated now like crazy, but you tell me. We did this in the past. We talked about the stars of Saturday Night Live, and we picked our team and so forth. But when Dan Aykroyd was doing that and other skits, was he not at the supreme top of his game? Or no?
Yeah, that was really funny what he did. I used to like everything he did. Yeah,
I did too. Really... And then he went to the movies and kind of, I don't know to say this. Did he lose it a bit? He wasn't as funny ever in any of the movies, was he?
What good movies was he in? That's part of the problem.
That's my point. Well,
Don't tell me
Ghostbusters.
Blues Brothers. It was terrible.
No, it should have been good. It was terrible.
It should have been good. I like the act. The Blues Brothers act itself was really funny and really good. But movies, I mean, what was the movie he was in with Eddie Murphy? That was probably the only good one he ever did.
Trading Places.
Yeah.
And he was more or less serious in that one.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So it's a different skill to do skits versus a movie. Anyway.
Maybe he just didn't really find the right script, the right movie for him, you know?
He's got to come on board with us. We can guide him in the right direction.
Yeah, he needs us.
Now,
definitely needs us.
Little something more contemporary, and this is still old. The Anal Retentive Chef. Do you remember this?
Hello and welcome to the Anal Retentive Chef. I'm Gene. Today we're going to be making pepper steak. Okay, let's get started. Now, I've already cut up my bell pepper. Look at this. See how all the pieces are the same size? They're beautiful. Uh-oh. All right, this one is a little bigger than the rest, so we'll just discard that one. As a matter of fact, why don't we just start over and throw this out? And how do we throw things out? Okay, we take our paper toweling. 2 pieces, unbroken, lay it out neatly, dump the refuse inside, fold over carefully, making sure the corners are square. And we take a piece of aluminum foil, and we place our refuse onto the foil, and fold over very carefully. This way it won't leak onto the other garbage. Aluminum foil is such a miracle product. It's really an extraordinary product. All right, and then we take a brown paper sandwich bag. We'll fold it over twice to be careful. We tape it shut, being very careful to center the tape on the bag.
There you go. Phil Hartman, I mean, what an hysterical guy. I don't know. A lot of the times I think he was more or less the straight person in a lot of these skits, but I mean, that one, he ran with that, and it was hysterical. David Cohen, I imagine you being like the anal retentive chef in some ways. Am I wrong?
No, you're wrong. I'm not like
your
that
kitchen's
at all.
a mess when you cook?
It's a mess.
Really? Disaster.
Yeah. I've come a long way.
In what way? Define. What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't care as much being messy anymore. I used to care.
All right. So you used to be the anal retentive chef, and you've shrugged that off.
Yeah, now I'm okay with it being messy because I know I'll clean it up at the end. I don't have to like clean as I go.
Okay. I still clean as I go. I was going to bond with you there for a moment, but again, I missed the mark.
Well, you might have I live in New York City, and maybe my kitchen space isn't as large as yours. So I kind of like I have to force myself not to clean up, but I ended up running out of room on the counter because I have a lot of like refuse, as Phil Hartman said. and because I'm like, I don't care about it, just leave it. I don't feel like cleaning it up. My working space gets smaller and smaller. So I should probably be more like you.
Well, I do clean as I go.
That's what I'm saying. It would make more room for me if I did.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy cleaning as I go because then when I'm done, I don't have anyone telling me what a mess you made and all this because you always have somebody looking over your shoulder.
See. So it's really about someone else.
It's someone else that lives in this house, and it's not the kids. We'll be back. Everything Old is New Again to continue and dive into. By the way, we're going to dive into who is the best cooking show of all time.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
I'm adding the veal to the pan, sir. You must try this, sir. I'm really interested in your opinion. What do you think?
Lieutenant, I wish you had been a chef.
I understand.
Yes.
There we go, because Columbo is the man about town when it comes to cooking and solving mysteries at the same time. Douglas Viviani here with David Cohen, our own sleuth du jour. How are you, David Cohen?
I am doing good. This is a very, very intriguing show.
Almost said soup du jour, but I said sleuth du jour. Did you get the play on words there, or did it kind of get...
I did.
All right. No credit, but... Listen,
I thought you meant to say soup du jour and you screwed up, and I didn't want to correct you.
See that? Everything is so planned out, so thoughtful, so engaging. Here on Everything Old is New Again. We'll continue to talk about food and all this preparation. One last look. Now a contemporary comedy team looking at cooking shows, which we're now going to look at and see what is the best cooking show of all time. David Cohen, listen to this clip and try to let me know if you can imagine who they are spoofing here.
Drew, come forward.
Yes, chef, this is a chicken quiche with cremini mushrooms, baby spinach, and feta cheese.
Unbelievable. Well, Drew, I have a huge problem with this dish. It's that you haven't made it for me sooner.
Thank you, chef.
Because if you had, Drew, then I would know how good you are at cooking food that's bad. And when I say bad, I mean Michael Jackson bad. You know how he looked really, really bad at the end of his life?
Chef, I'm sorry. I don't know if you like the dish or not.
You don't know if I like the dish or not? Well, let's put it this way. Pack your knives, get out, you're off the show. Because you should be working in the finest restaurant in the world.
Thank you, chef.
Just not any world that I live in.
Sorry, chef.
Because frankly, Drew, I'm jealous of you.
Thank you, chef.
There we go. First of all, that is... a team that yes, Key and Peele. I'm curious because I keep seeing new things, but on the web, and I don't know if it's new or do they break up or they get back together every so often and do something. Can you tell me a little something about this group? Because I think they are the funniest comedy team around.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. If they've done anything recently, I don't know about it.
All right. So no, did you? You don't know everything.
Years ago, yeah, they were good for a while. Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that that's an older clip. Do you have any idea who they're trying to spoof?
I mean, it probably is because, Jordan Peele is he's a famous movie director now. So I don't know if he's still doing the comedy bit, with his old partner.
And the old
I would doubt it.
You would doubt it.
I would doubt it. He's probably too busy.
Well, who are they trying to spoof there? That was Gordon Ramsay for sure.
Yeah, well, one of the many cooking shows, right? I mean, whether it's about making, the best muffin or, pastry or whatever the cooking show is, it's all that I think they're spoofing everything.
and Ramsey and others do that. They
throw you the left. I think this is the best thing I've tasted.
or Ramsey will tell them, like in Hell's Kitchen, take off that apron because I'm going to give you this apron for the other team or whatever.
Right.
All right. So let's see if we can kind of figure out in the remainder of this show what is the absolute best cooking television show of all time. Do you have any ideas going into this? Are you a cooking show fan?
No, but I've seen them.
Right,
and, one of my favorites is that British show they did with the pastries. I like that.
All right, that might be in the mix. Let's take a look. I've got one after the next one. Just going to clip it up. Let's see if you know them, see if you like them, see where we go with this.
I'm going to start with 2 chicken breasts. I'm going to do a coating for them. So they're sauteed in a lemon and butter sauce, which is so good.
Any
so the
idea
first
who
thing
this
I need is half a cup of flour, half a teaspoon of salt,
No.
a quarter of a teaspoon of pepper. And it's going to be dipped into 1 egg. It's breadcrumbs. I use seasoned breadcrumbs. So the first one goes into the flour, into the eggs. Flour dries it out, and then the eggs make it so that the breadcrumbs will adhere.
Bonnie Hunt.
And then I'm going to make a nice lemon butter sauce to go with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just wipe out the pan that I cooked the chicken in. And I'm just going to heat up a tablespoon of butter. Okay, now I need a third of a cup of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Just going to pour it right into the butter. Okay, now half a cup of white wine. Really nice dry white wine.
Meryl
Half a
Streep.
teaspoon of salt.
Now, to me, she's a good chef, but the presentation doesn't have any zest to it whatsoever. The Barefoot Contessa. Ever hear of her?
Okay.
So, not really a big fan. So, I'm going to say not the best show of all time. She's very basic, good standard recipes, but I don't think you could sit through the whole show without sleeping.
If you're looking at it for entertainment value, it sounded a little dry.
I think you need both in this world, don't you? You got to do the recipe, but you got to be fun about it.
I think if it's too dry, you might as well just open a cookbook, right? I mean,
yeah. Or
am I wrong?
Just go to YouTube and follow along. Okay, let's listen to Robert Irvine. Ever see this show, Restaurant Impossible?
Eggs Benedict are dry, chicken's dry. French toast needs some egg on it. I don't know what this dressing is. Has no taste at all. Everything's got a garnish on it, which cost him money, and he doesn't need that. Not what this is supposed to be. Everything looks big and bold. Everything's piled on. Everything's got mixed greens.
So he goes into restaurants and he's, tastes all the food and it's disgusting and this and that. I'm just trying to think out loud if, I don't go to restaurants all that much these days anymore with the family, whatever. But when I go, I don't critique things like these people do. Do you? I mean, I don't know. Is it that big a deal if you get something that is a little, I don't know, off or I don't know?
No, I would say something about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily to the waiter, but no, if it's something that isn't great, I would say something to whoever I'm dining with.
Yeah, because these days, it's not like you're going into to me, a diner. They used to call me Mr. Diner in college and law school because diners were one step above fast food, but it wasn't that expensive. You still got a decent meal. Now a diner unto itself costs almost as much as a restaurant, right?
Right.
So, when you're going out, you're spending a dollar, you want the food to be done properly. That does make sense. So I kind of like that show, but he doesn't teach anything. Let's look at this guy.
He's just criticizing.
Right. This is although he does teach a little bit at the end, but it's not the entire part of the show. Have you heard? Do you remember this guy? We're going back now. The New Orleans Cajun Justin Wilson. Do you remember this guy who would be in suspenders and he would sit and stand in front of a big metal pot, and every single dish he would just pour things into this pot on the stove. So here's a little piece of it.
You know how come the chicken crossed the road, huh? To run away from them Cajuns. I'll tell you right now, because Cajuns will eat most anything, and they love to cook chicken. They love to eat chicken. That's for true. I'll tell you that right now. Today, I'm going to cook you some chicken gumbo. First, you make a roux. You know that. And to make a roux, I put about 3/4 of a cup of olive oil in there. I put about 1.5 cups of flour. You put about 2 to 1. And you cook that, stir them roux. That's the roux right there. That roux is, I'm going to put the rest of the stuff on that roux and cook it in there a little bit before I put the chicken. I got 1 big onion. It's about 1 cup. I put my garlic, which is just 1 large clove of garlic, chop up real fine. I use wine when I make my gumbo. The next thing what I'm going to do is put a little of my seasoning on there, like 2 tablespoonfuls of, how you call it, Worcestershire, Lee and Perrin.
I'm going to stop there because this clip is too long. But the point is, he just it's like an old comedy bit. He just puts everything in but the kitchen sink into this big pot.
Kitchen sink.
But anyway,
love the accent. Oh, God, this Cajun accent is crazy, isn't it?
It really is. It really. It almost you almost say to yourself, is he putting that on, or is he really talking like that? You know, it's that pronounced. I'm zipping through a couple more here, just so I want to catch up a little bit on these clips. Bobby Flay, do you go for Bobby Flay or no?
Yeah, I think yes. I like his restaurant.
He's up there.
I'm going to riff on the classic theme. I'm going to make mussel steamed with red curry broth. I'm going to start with some shallots, garlic. Then I add the red curry paste. I'm going to toast all of these aromatics to really bring out the flavors of the red curry. Then I add some white wine, and then I add some coconut milk, which I think balances out, the strong flavors of that red curry.
Bobby's broth got a good amount of spice to it. Coconut milk, lime juice, garlic, and Ruth is going classic, delicious. No frites.
Obviously, Bobby's great with outside the box, but I would tend to favor the traditional style. So the mussels go into the Dutch oven. I cover it with the broth, just steam them open, let the juices from the mussels marry with the broth, and then I cover the pot, get it going. I put the mussels into the bowl, and I pour the broth over it.
All right, there we go. Bobby Flay. What is the show? It's something like Beat Bobby Flay, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Do you ever watch it? Do you ever get a kick out of it? No.
No. So,
to me, Barefoot Contessa, Robert Irvine, this New Orleans chef, Bobby Flay, all of them, they might be great chefs. The one that I would watch for a few moments would be Justin Wilson with the accent, only because the suspenders and throwing everything in one pot is curious to me. But other than that, I wouldn't say that I could turn them on and say, this is the greatest thing. I got to keep watching this show.
Well, there's little entertainment value, I think, really.
Right. So that's where we're falling short, I think, on that, right? And then do you ever watch The Iron Chef? Do you go for that one?
I've seen commercials for it.
I just can't get into it. I can't. I will go out on The Iron Chef here. It's just something, a secret ingredient, and he reveals a secret ingredient. Everybody's competing with each other. I guess what I'm saying is they're not really user-friendly where they're using ingredients that you standardly have in your kitchen that you can make into something that you like. There's always something, even, and I know it's prevalent, it's out there, but you don't usually buy the coconut, what do you say, milk for that last recipe? You don't usually buy that stuff. So it's, hey, you got to go out of your way to get it and whatever. So they're not really user-friendly. Iron Chef, we'll be back right at this and Everything Old is New Again. And we're going to dive into, again, we're diving to find out who is and what is the best TV cooking show of all time.
Black bass, shrimp, clams, sweet onion, asparagus, crawfish, wild salmon, turkey, tilapia, lamb, pork, sausage, oh baby.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Relax, Lieutenant. Really, it's going to be all right. 4 eggs. We have some salt, some pepper, some butter, and some lemon juice. Now, I'd like you to separate the yolks from the whites of the eggs and put them in the blender.
I'll try.
All right, then get cracking. You must do a little cooking at home, huh? What? You're doing very well, though, I must say.
Thank you.
Can't you say anything else, Lieutenant?
There you go. Martin Landau, Peter Falk, Columbo on a fictitious cooking show in the 70s. Do you remember that, Columbo? I know you've been watching some of them. Have you seen that one yet?
I haven't caught up to that one, I guess. Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's a great one. But we're here on Everything Old is New Again, and we're talking about cooking shows. We're trying to figure out best cooking show of all time. Have you seen any piece part of a show called Top Chef Let's hear a little piece, see if it's worth our while.
We prepared a lobster sunomono, double cream, coffee, and stout reduction inside with carbonated grapes and free coffee on top.
I absolutely loved Avishar and Shota's dish. It was beautifully composed. Lobster's perfectly cooked. And I love the richness of the sauce. It just sung to me.
Coffee and beer are going to be bitter, but they balance it with some sweetness. And then I think a modern technique of carbonating fruit, it's a great time to use this.
That fizz at the end, you're like, oh, that's interesting.
My plate is empty.
Same here.
All right, so I think the descriptions of the people that have eaten this food are better than the recipes and watching the people cook, because I don't know what the heck they said. Carbonated fruit. What, do you have any idea what they were talking about? What they created there?
Yeah, it was hard to. Yeah, not really.
It's just after all. I mean, I've seen all these shows. I'm obsessed, but I cannot figure out for the life of me. And I went through a whole season watching. There's a number of seasons. I watched the whole season. I couldn't figure out how they made any of these dishes, and I watched them doing it. And there's this.
So what would intrigue you about it, even though you didn't know how they were doing it?
It's just like, could they ever come up with a recipe that I could possibly follow? And finally, I gave up, and I said, "There's no way in the. I don't know what. There's always an ingredient or a style or a technique that I have no idea what they're even talking about. A grenache? What's a grenache? Do you have any idea what that is?
A ganache?
Ganache? What is that?
It's like a chocolate concoction.
Yeah, of what and what and what? You know what I mean?
Come on, you've never heard of ganache? You watch all
I've
these
heard of
cooking
it, but
shows?
could you?
Ganache is a required word in every cooking show.
Forget the word. Could you make a ganache?
I don't think it's difficult. I don't think it is.
I think it's
when you hear something that you don't understand. I don't know if you have a computer, but they have this thing called the internet.
It's too much work. I'm watching the show to teach me how to do it. For God's sake, if I'm going to use the computer, I'll do it myself. Okay. I need a Martha Stewart. It's going to just chill and tell me how to make.
I think you need a chef to come into your house and cook you a meal. That's the only way it's going to work.
For simple ingredients that become a transcendent bowl of soup.
That's what I want.
In this classic French recipe, onions are slowly caramelized to bring out their natural sweetness and cooked in a rich beef stock. And when topped with a crouton and melted cheese, this simple soup is perfect if you're craving something warm and hearty. To start with, we're using big yellow onions. And what I do is peel them and cut them in half this way, top down.
Top down.
And then slice them like this into thin pieces. Now, 4 tablespoons of butter in a heavy pot like this with a wide bottom. This is an 8-quart enameled cast iron. I love cooking in something like this because they have to get really, really caramelized to get that dark, perfect.
But it's enough. I get it. She's a little bland. But this cast iron business, have you used a cast iron utensil?
I have not. It's heavy, though, right?
It cooks beautifully. The problem is, you're done. They don't want you to use water on this thing to clean it.
Now, how do you clean it?
You got to put like oil on it. You got to put salt on it. You got to use like this sort of like it looks like a thin piece of soap kind of a thing and scrape it. You know, it's made of plastic. I mean, it's a project. And
you have to start watching like cleaning shows to figure out how to clean the pot you use when you watch the cooking
I got one
shows.
in the bottom of in the bottom of the drawer, in my kitchen, and I want to use it, but I say, I don't want to use it because how do I clean this thing?
You really can't. It can't come into contact with water.
They don't like it because, God forbid, then everything that's built up in the cast iron, supposedly the bottom of the cast iron keeps some of the flavor and all that. The older the cast iron, the better it is for flavor. Well, that's great, but it's also pretty disgusting because it's not clean too well.
I would definitely run that thing underwater and clean it, or else I wouldn't use it.
So that's why I don't use it. I use a nonstick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All right. Going back to an old favorite, the Galloping Gourmet. Do you remember the Galloping Gourmet in the 70s?
Graham Kerr?
Yes. Here's a little piece of it.
Bless you for coming, and thank you very much for being at home. I hope your day has been a super one. I have had a fantastic day. The sun has been out, the crocuses are blossoming, the birds are flying around in the sky, and I feel fantastic. And I have a great dish for you. This is a dish which, in a sense, I designed myself, although I didn't. But I'll tell you about that later. It's called crêpe fruits de mer. and it's an English dish, and it comes from Sussex in England, where I met my first love. And that's where we're going to today, to have a look at the beautiful part of the world, lovely Sussex.
All right, now that's a terrible clip. You could hear that hum, and I apologize. I'll try to take that out. But
you can hear the what?
The hum. There's like a hum there. Anyway.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
Oh,
no.
okay. Now, he's in this from the 70s. I thought he was very different in that in the 70s when I was growing up, and I think that when America kind of was just learning about it, and I might be wrong about this, but it seems like what he did was he visited lots of different parts of the world almost in every show and showed a home movie of him in Venice, let's say, and then going to a restaurant in Venice and having a certain meal in Venice that you didn't and couldn't get in America. And then he would teach you how to make that meal from Venice in America, you know?
Cool.
So I really thought it was very different, very cool. And I was a young teen. I was like 13 when that show was on. And I still, it sort of was one of these, wasn't into cooking at the time, but it kind of was like, I got a little, and he grabbed my attention with that kind of thing.
Yeah, but he was entertaining, right? Like Julia Child. I mean, you weren't necessarily making what they were making, but they were fun to watch.
Yes.
Definitely.
And then he'd invite somebody at the end, if you remember, from the audience to come up and he'd have a glass of wine for them and they would eat together afterwards. But it was always, you know, if we're time traveling here, like we feel like we're so, what would you say, experienced now, and we know all the different cuisines, and especially, you know, when you go to a city or new city, and they've got all these
so
fancy
back then
restaurants.
it was a novelty, I think, right?
Absolutely, they didn't know, you know, a lot of these different things. I mean, sushi
Did you know
didn't
how
come.
beautiful the crocuses were in Sussex, Doug? I had no idea.
He was fun that way. Anyway, so you'd see the home movies, and so I'm putting him pretty high on the list. I have one more, and then we'll discuss a smidge. More recent gentleman that I met at a book signing years ago, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Here we go, Emerald.
My buddy Frank and I were just talking about this mushroom soup. You know, this time of the year, I love doing that. Here's how you do it. Going to start with a little bit of butter, and then what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to start with some onion and a little celery. All right, now we're going to add a little garlic, a little thyme, a little fresh thyme. We're going to add the mushrooms in here now, folks. In this pan right here, I'm going to take good olive oil, and I'm going to add a few cloves of crushed garlic right in here. Once these mushrooms cook, you know, we'll add a little bit of brandy to this. We'll add a little brandy and let it evaporate out. Then you want to take chicken stock or chicken broth. We'll bring it up to a boil, and then we're going to let it simmer.
There we go, Emerald. So what's your thoughts on this gentleman?
Well, I can see where the inspiration for a barbecue guy comes in a little bit there. Definitely heard a little bit of that there. Got your salt, your barbecue salt, you put it in there.
Because he is very down to earth.
Damn.
He did add personality. He also, this is like, I'm going to say 90s, right? Maybe 2000s.
I went to his restaurant in New York City when he was really, really popular.
And what'd you think?
Oh, it was great. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of has that showmanship. He seems to be a little goofy at times and whatever, but he can give you a decent recipe, and he uses the things that are at your house that you can buy, and if you don't, you can go to a grocery store and get it, no problem. You can find all that stuff.
So
right?
he doesn't make a ganache.
Doesn't make a ganache and all this other malarkey. The infused strawberry, you know, and it's got, you know, it's under a canopy, or, you know, it's under this like glass, and you pull the glass up and this smoke comes out of it, you know, like it's a little beyond my abilities. You know what I mean? Like it's a little much. I just want a leg of lamb or something.
You're more of like just put a burger on.
Yes and no. I mean, I really do enjoy doing something different, but it's got to be within like a certain level of skill, you know?
Well, it also and doesn't require a trip to the grocery store. Like you if it's an ingredient you never use, like coconut milk, forget it. It's off the list.
I'm never going to remember to get it. I'm never going to remember to get the coconut milk.
Why wouldn't you just make a separate trip, right? Just to get the ingredients you need for the dinner that night.
I know. It's a lot of work. I got 2 kids.
Yeah. I understand.
I got to take one kid to baseball. I got to take the other one to theater camp, and
blame it on the kids. Sure,
I'll be back and everything all is new again.
So easy.
Right after this.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show. with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Thorough rinsing and air drying are absolutely crucial to smoking any kind of food. That's because the cure has brought water-soluble proteins up to the surface of the meat. And when these dry, they're going to create a mat-like surface. It's almost like a shellac of protein called a pellicle that will prevent moisture loss during smoking. And it will act like smoke Velcro. It'll actually attract it.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. That's Alton Brown. This is Douglas Viviani with David Cohen himself, the rather smoked version of David Cohen. How are you?
Is Alton Brown from Philadelphia or thereabouts?
Why do you say the accent?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm not sure. What do you think of this gentleman? Have you seen the show?
No, I haven't heard him until like 10 seconds ago.
All right. This is something that you and everyone listening has to give it a shot at least once. Go to YouTube, pull up any of his shows, and at least watch the beginning 10 minutes and tell me that you don't learn something about how to cook food and why. How does a steak, how do you, like people talk about steaks and whatever, how do you get a steak to caramelize on the outside, and why does it caramelize? And I know this is a little deep when you talk about food, but you've heard that before. He gives you the reasons, the chemical reactions, what in fact is going on here, and why. I guess we could ask him, why shouldn't you cook that pan we just spoke about? That
interesting,
the iron pan and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
he's not from Philadelphia. That's weird.
Oh, okay. Where's he from?
He grew up in California.
This is, to me, one of the top 3 shows of all time that you have to watch to learn how to cook. Now, that's different if you already know how to cook, but to me, I learned how to cook watching this gentleman teach the basics of what are these chemical reaction and what is this, that, and the other, what is braising and whatever it might be, the different techniques.
Do you know he had a completely different career before he became he was like a film producer, and he was a cinematographer for an REM music video, the one I love. And then he was dissatisfied with the quality of cooking shows airing on America. So he set out to produce his own show, and he enrolled in the New England Culinary Institute to do it, and he graduated from there.
So he learned first, and then he did the show.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I'm telling you,
he went to school because he was so upset over the cooking shows in America.
Rather than being upset about the song that REM produced, he was more interested in.
You know what really gets under my skin? Cooking shows. And then he went to the freaking Culinary Institute just to, wow.
Good for him, man. He turned. Now we all know his name.
Right.
Guy was great.
I do now.
It's not on anymore. I'm telling you, just FYI, that's a great show to watch. Go to YouTube. Nick Stellina, we've had on the show. Let's listen a little bit about him.
Italians, they're
Yes.
very difficult.
Okay.
I am difficult.
Yes, I am.
Italian Americans, they're always happy. They're generous. They don't care so much. Italians, we are difficult people. One of the rules that we have is that when you have a meat dish, like a steak, sausage, just meatballs, you don't put pasta next to it. When I came to America and I got veal, marsala, with spaghetti on the same plate, it was for me an act of betrayal. I think I almost went crazy. I remember writing to my mom and dad, says, you will not believe what they do here in America. They put the meat and the pasta together. What kind of forms are this? Now I do the same thing. I have become an Italian American. The pasta and the meat, do they live together? In America, they do. In Italy, they don't. What is the moral of the story? I believe that freedom, above all, and freedom of choice, even in eating, is far more important of the rules that are set up from wherever it is that we come from. And what I love about the Italian-American way of thinking is to always find a way to make everybody happy. So I do believe that the Italian-American way, in my own mind, it's a better way. It might not be right all the time, but there's something for everybody.
Now, this guy tells stories like that surrounding these amazing dishes that he puts together. Have you seen his show?
No, I don't. I generally don't watch cooking shows.
I'm telling you, this is the second one that you've got to watch, because he does things with
Alton Brown,
food.
Nick Stellino. I'm
Yes.
just writing it down.
I'm telling you, he does things with food, and he lays it out for you, and there's no surprises. There's no, kind of techniques that you don't understand and so forth. And he gives you a nice story surrounding it. Good show. Good clean show.
Nick Stellino also produced an REM video. What is going on here? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
He was on our show, you know. I had
Yes.
Angelica speaking with him. He was a lot
I
of fun.
know.
Now, here we go. Something that I think you've seen. Diners, drive-ins, and dives, David Cohen. All right, here we go, guys.
That I've seen.
All right, what are we making first, boss? Okay, we're gonna boil some lobsters. Okay. For our lobster raviolis. Yes. All right, so we get all the lobster meat out. Some extra virgin olive oil. Some shallots. Where do you get your olive oil from? Italy. Of course. We got the chopped up lobster meat. There we go. Okay, a little fresh parsley. Italian parsley. Yes. Salt, pepper. And that's all she wrote. Yeah, pull it off the heat. Let it cool down. Go. We're gonna make our filling. Fresh ricotta. Where are you getting the ricotta from? From Italy also. What, do you have like a tram that goes back and forth? Nothing but the best. A Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano Reggiano. Some parsley, salt, pepper, a chilled lobster meat. All right, brother. Just fold it. I like to leave it chunky. So we got this ready. Next thing is making the pasta. Exactly, yes. Please.
Now, if you haven't seen, this guy travels the country in this Mustang, this amazing Mustang convertible, and visits all different locations, specialty restaurants, different kind of restaurants, basic restaurants, all kind of stuff from soup to nuts. Takes you into the kitchen. They do it quickly. They give you the you know, how they made X, Y, and Z. But the way he describes it when he's eating it is beyond. And David Cohen, I know you've seen it and you want to say something because I think you like this guy or the show. No, he doesn't.
I don't know if I like him, but I think, yeah, well, it's not like high cuisine, right? I mean, this is
correct.
Diners, drive-ins, and right, that's the name of the show.
Dives, yeah.
So the stuff that they're cooking is, you know, not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? Like I said, it's not like
It's not
high
healthy.
cuisine. It's not healthy. Generally
No.
not healthy.
No.
But I think that's why I watch it, because I like to know if I'm ever in that town and I can find that restaurant, I'm going to go there.
Now, there was one that they did in Long Island City, New York, when I used to go to the courthouses. They've sort of changed procedures now. You don't go to court that much. But anyway, and it was walking distance from the Long Island City courthouse. So I went there one day to court. After court, I went to lunch to this place. And exactly what he described, exactly what he said to get, I got. I cannot remember what it was. It's 4 or 5 years ago. But it was a sandwich. It was amazing. He was straight on, and they had his picture, you know, on the wall and so forth.
Right.
And he hit it, at least for that particular one. I could tell you that, no joke, it was exactly what he said. It was great comfort. I guess the best thing you say is comfort food.
Comfort food. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know, and so it's a pretty kind of fun show on a Saturday to me.
Plus, everyone, I mean, he's almost like, he's kind of ubiquitous, right? Guy Fieri, everyone, even if you're not into cooking shows, you've seen him. If you see his face somewhere, you're like, oh, yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, the diners and drive-in thing.
Exactly,
Right?
with the goatee and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good one. Hell's Kitchen or any show with Gordon Ramsay.
Hey, all of you, come here. Look at that. Touch that. Oh, look what he gave me. It's been moving.
Sorry, Chef. Once the snowball starts, man, it doesn't stop.
Raw lobster.
That was my fault, Chef. I'll drop 3 more.
JP.
Yes, Chef.
Just pathetic. JR.
Yes, sir.
Just ridiculous. Finally.
Coach on.
53 minutes for your first table. Get it together.
You will never learn how to cook from any Gordon Ramsay show ever. None of them.
Who won't?
They're all entertainment. No?
Wait, who did you say won't ever learn to cook?
You will never learn.
You will never learn to
from
cook.
Gordon
No,
Ramsay.
right.
Never.
No.
If you
It's
go on
it's
YouTube,
more about like it's like restaurant management more, right? Right? Kitchen management.
Absolutely, and technique and so forth. He just doesn't peel the onion. He doesn't let you see how to do things. Once in a while, he'll show you some technique, you know, filleting a fish or whatever, cutting a fish up, whatever, that you'll never do yourself. So he doesn't let you in on the secrets. He does have a YouTube channel, 10-minute recipes from Gordon Ramsay. I would highly recommend. It's amazing. He is really a good chef.
Does he yell at you if you do it wrong?
I don't know. He probably would. He probably would yell at me. That's for sure.
So do you? Let me ask you this:
Yes.
Do you like, you know, the rigmarole, the whole thing that goes on in the kitchen behind the scenes, and that whole bit?
I don't. It frustrates me. I mean, you know, it's so. I know there's so many producers behind saying, okay, you know, try to sabotage this person, or you know, oh, you don't turn the heater on, you know, the heat on in the oven, so you look like a fool. Whatever, you know. It seems to be a little too much, no?
Because there is a show that one of my favorite shows from 2022. I don't know if you ever saw it. It's called The Bear.
No, what's
And
that?
It's a family based show, but it's basically some hotshot up and coming world renowned chef who has to come back to his hometown in Chicago because his family like steak sandwich restaurant, hole in the wall, was going under. And I think his dad died or something, and he had to come back and run it and take it over.
And it's good.
It's good because it really shows you, and these guys went, I guess the showrunners or whatever you call them, they have experience with this stuff. So, it's like a handheld camera, and the kitchen's very tight quarters. And so it's almost like done like real time what really happens in a kitchen.
That I would like. I thought you were asking me about the Gordon Ramsay ones because I think those are put on some of that Hell's Kitchen stuff. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
But no, that sounds good, The Bear. I'll have to tune
and
into
it's a
that.
great show. Yeah.
What is it? I don't know. Is it one of these odd channels?
No. It's like HBO, I think, or Netflix, one of those.
All right, I'll check it out. All right, so in
I think
sum,
you would like it.
I hate to say this, in sum, I will definitely do that, and we'll come back and report that in a day or two or a week or two. To me, Alton Brown, you got to look at Nick Stellino and just have some fun with Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. But Alton Brown and Nick Stellino, to me, are top of the top, along with none other than Julia Child. You can get all of those shows on YouTube.
Oh,
she's very good. She's amazing. We'll be back next week to continue talking food in more thrilling and fun way. David Cohen, good night, goodbye.
Good night, goodbye.
Enjoy.
This is a mixture of eggs and milk. If you pour it into a little cup and bake it, you have a custard, and babies love it. But if you pour it into a shell and sprinkle a little cheese upon it and bake it, you have a quiche, which everybody loves. We're doing quiche.